a teacher for the 25-26 school year, let us help you. We've created the New Orleans Teacher Job Board, which is the official job platform of public schools in New Orleans. You can apply to any school in the city. Simply post your resume and provide information about yourself. Visit our website to learn more and apply. www.neworleansteacherjobboard.org.
I'm Alexandria Ikamoni with BIN News Now. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries is criticizing President Trump over his response to the pro-immigration protests in Los Angeles. The New York Democrat said Trump and the GOP have zero credibility when it comes to issues of law and order.
So the notion that Donald Trump and his minions, his sycophants here in the House of Representatives or in the Senate, who are nothing more than a reckless rubber stamp for Donald Trump's extreme agenda, are going to lecture America about issues of law and order, get lost.
More details are coming out about the arrest of Adam Pacman-Jones. TMZ reported that the black former Bengals cornerback intentionally elbowed a police officer in the face last weekend. A new study links looser gun laws to more child deaths across the U.S. From 2018 to 2023, the firearm death rates nearly doubled among black youth. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Good morning, wake up.
The Good Morning Show.
Good morning.
On WBOK.
Wake up, New Orleans. Good morning and happy Tuesday. Welcome to the Good Morning Show. I am your host, Dr. Ashanta Wyatt. Shout out to my super producer, Naira Sanders, making certain that everything is everything in the studio this morning. Look, I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be up. Yesterday was a long day, very, very long day for me, so I'm excited to be up. Did I tell y'all that my son is home? He is. And he's actually working at a camp in the city this summer. And it's so heartwarming when folks see my baby. And a lady saw my son at the camp yesterday. And she messaged me on social media. She said, I think I saw your son. And she was just talking about, how respectful he is and how the way that I parented him is very evident. That's the best compliment you could give me. If y'all wanted to know how to get straight up in my chest to my heart, yeah, talk to me about my baby. So, shout out to her. If I had permission to talk about her name, I probably would, but she didn't know that I was sharing this on the air. So, thank you for that, and I appreciate that. And I often have to tell people, it's God, baby. God helped me raise that boy. And so I appreciate every time that y'all notice my son. But yes, he is home for the summer, and he decided he wanted to work. so he's working at a camp with the babies this summer. So he's doing what it is he wants to do before he goes back to the business of school and track and field. So I'm very excited for him. So yeah, I'm excited to be here with you too. So happy Tuesday, everybody. I hope your Monday wasn't as long as mine. I attended a community meeting out in the East at a church in the East. I was able to see Reverend Calhoun. Shout out to Reverend Calhoun. Oliver Thomas was there. I think he seemed to be the only elected official and official running for office there. So if I had noticed anybody else, I would say they were there as well. But I didn't see anyone else. But that is a standing meeting that community has to address the ills of the community and to try to come up with some solutions. So shout out to the pastor for opening his church to the community to make certain that meeting happens. Oh, I saw Cess 45 was there. I'm just trying to think of folk who were there that I can say. I saw Darren from Oliver Thomas's office. Phil hosted the meeting. with his organization that also does a lot of work around youth and trying to be solution driven in terms of what is happening in our community. So, shout out to the community folk, trying to come together to find some resolution to a lot of the things that are going on. But right now, this morning, I want to talk to you because I'm not certain if you're aware, but I told y'all I watch the news so that you don't have to. But there's been some sort of update with the Orleans Parish's school board's lawsuit against the city, and the update is that it's been postponed. The trial over millions of dollars of monies that is owed to the Orleans Parish School Board. Well, the article says claimed that it's owed. It's not claimed. The money is owed. I tell you, it baffles me sometimes how these articles are written because I'm trying to figure out what do you mean claims it is owed by the city? No, baby, it's owed. The money is owed. Everybody is aware that the money is owed. Nobody's saying the money is not owed. The problem is the city is saying that it can't afford, basically, to hand over that sort of money at this moment in time. But the money is owed. But nevertheless, the article says the trial of millions of dollars the Orleans Parish School Board claims it is owed by the city of New Orleans has been delayed after a judge ruled that an essential party is missing from the case. The trial was scheduled to start Tuesday to address the funding, but has been postponed. On Monday, Bill Aaron, the attorney for the school board, claimed the city is in contempt of court, affecting summer programs and other initiatives due to lack of funds. Are children and students at risk right now in New Orleans? Yes, summer programs are affected by the lack of money, and other programs are affected, Aaron said. Aaron plans to call top city and school board officials to testify, along with the author of a 2019 Bureau of Governmental Research report, that is the BGR, which he claims supports the school board's assertion that the city has improperly withheld or redirected tax revenue intended for schools. Are there enough resources for students? I don't believe there are enough resources currently. We need more resources so students can get what they need, Aaron said. The judge gave the school board 7 days to figure out who that party is. Are y'all confused like I'm confused? The judge gave the school board 7 days to figure out who that party is. What party? What party are we looking for? Because the article said that the trial couldn't go forward because there's a missing party. But I just read that, and I know my comprehension, I could comprehend a little bit who's the missing party. On Monday, Bill Aaron, an attorney for the school board, claimed that the city is in contempt of court, affecting summer programs and other initiatives. Well, Bill Aaron, let me tell you who you might could call to help get you some funding. Since they got all this funding to throw around, right? Let's talk about all of these people that's on this list that are trying to bring recreation to the University of New Orleans for their children. Because it seems like with them and the governor, you can find all kind of funding because the flyer that I read says, with the help of Governor Jeff Landry and the Louisiana legislature, funding will be provided to make repairs to UNO's facilities so that children and families from across our city can participate in recreation. So certainly if they have all of this money lying around somewhere, that they just swimming in money, that they could just revamp NORD into their own privatized recreation, certainly they can give you some money to help summer programs and other initiatives for the children of the city of New Orleans, because the article also goes on to say that it's for children and families from all across our city. That's what it says. So, use the test to take the test. I will bring this same flyer and I will go to these same people, all of these mega donors, big bucks, McGrews that they have up in the city of New Orleans, right? Like Boys at Bollinger. Go ask him. Go ask the NOLA Coalition. Ask them. Because it seems to me like while the children's money that is owed to them is in limbo, the governor should be concerned about that. He's concerned about everything else that's going on. Well, Mr. Governor, the children don't have enough money to sustain themselves throughout the summer for summer resources and programming. And since the Business Council of New Orleans has all of this money laying around that they could just offer up to create recreation as if NORD is non-existent, Metropolitan Crime Commission, certainly that the more summer programs that they have, the less crime will be on the street. So Raphael Goeneche, maybe you could holler at Mr. Bill Aaron and help them in some resources to ensure that the children have their summer program. And I'm just going out on a limb here. Since the Bureau of Governmental Research report says that the school board's assertion that the city has improperly withheld the redirected tax revenue intended for schools it actually happened. There's data, that stuff that y'all don't like. There's data already that says this money is owed to the kids, and since it's not where it's supposed to be, while we decide who the parties are, and while we decide where the money is, and while we decide how the kids are going to be funded over the summer, all of these wealthy, well-to-do New Orleans citizens, so some of them don't even live in New Orleans, but they all up in New Orleans business. So since they all up in our business, can't they help you, Lowry Cruz, out the 18th Ward? The kids don't have the resources for the summer programming. So while y'all over there trying to reinvent a wheel that already exists, how about you fund a wheel that's already in motion? How about you do that? Or is it not the kids that you intend to serve? Somebody make it make sense for me. Because there's a meeting on Friday, June 13th at 10 a.m. at 6801 Franklin Avenue talking about recreation is back. Where it went. Yeah, I said it just like that. Where it went. Where it went. Huh? The Hispanic Chamber of Commerce, the NAACP. Do the NAACP know what the A is in NAACP? I just want to know. It's the advancements. What advancements are we making for black folk if we gonna team up with people who are actually trying to continue to suppress black folk? I don't know. Maybe y'all need another acronym because that acronym don't fit on this paper. I'm confusion. The kids don't have what they need for summer programming. And yet we are colluding with all of this wealth and privilege and power. We're colluding together to further keep them poor and broke and illiterate. Because you already hijacked their schools. You already got their mama working so many jobs that she can't attend the parent conference and put the eggs on the table because eggs $90 a carton. You got to crack the egg and use a little bit of it and put the rest back in the refrigerator because you can't afford to crack a whole egg and use the whole thing at one time. You hijack their schools, hijack their neighborhoods, and now you're going to hijack recreation. But there are kids right now in need. Why all of y'all can't come together and fund for the kids that's already in need if it's about the children? If it's about the kids. But if it's not about these kids, then say that because that's what I'm hearing. Michael Heck, that's your last name? Ron Mastery. Like, do y'all know that the kids are in need because the city is not forking over the money that is due them? So now they can't have the programming that is necessary to sustain them? What do you think is going to happen to the crime rate, Mr. Metropolitan Crime Commission? Because, see, y'all don't care nothing about crime until crime visits your neck of the woods at your gas station next to your gated community. Y'all don't care nothing about crime. If the crime stays separate and apart from y'all, it wouldn't even much make the TV. I want to know why we pretend like we trying to do what is best for children. No, you're trying to do what's best for your kids. Just like them out in Baton Rouge with their St. George community. Now they want their St. George school system. They're going to be after a St. George recreation facilities in a minute too. Same script, different zip code. Because anytime, and this is no shot against the coach because I hear, he's a wonderful coach, wonderful man. But anytime you elect a coach with no political experience, no understanding of how governmental affairs work, but simply because he has the complexion for the protection, that's all that matters out there. That's why you elected him. Anytime you can do that, you can't tell me that you're actually trying to do what is best for community. Because it requires a certain skill set, a certain expertise. That's what it requires. Scope and sequence of job responsibilities. You got to read thoroughly through that and say, is this job suited for me? All of y'all putting together all y'all money, power, and privilege to further dismantle programming that is put there for the most vulnerable communities of children. And you want to act as if this is about kids? This is not. This is a power move. This is a money grab. This is let me put you further in your place since you seem to think you running things, Larry. You ain't running things. That's what the people saying, Mr. Barabino. That's what they saying to all of our black elected officials. Y'all ain't running nothing. Y'all just sitting in spots that we actually control. And if that be true, yeah, I said it. If that be true, then tell us so we can stop fighting so ferociously for you. But if you actually want to do the job that you were elected to do or appointed to do, and these people are trying to bully you, then speak up. Tell us what a meeting at. Tell us what needs to happen. Mobilize the community. Do something, but don't just lay there and take it. Good morning, Ms. Jones. Welcome to the Good Morning Show.
Good morning to you, Dr. White, and to everybody that's listening. I need to go back memory lane. I might be incorrect, but back in 2010, around October, November, when it was a voting about the Nord situation, and people let it get in to be commissioned, which means privacy running. And this is what happened. I wish somebody would look it up. It was 2010, around October or November. And people didn't go out there to vote as they didn't for this governor, against this governor. It got in. And this is the result, almost 15 years later. The money is not being used the way it would, because when you say commission, it doesn't sound like public. The public has any input. And this is the result right now. And I'm saying urgent for people to want to register to vote for the mayor election that's coming up, and anything else that would be for our favor of the mass of the people here who are underprivileged.
Yeah.
This is the result, 2010, around October or November, and it got voted in to be commissioned. I say, there it goes. So that's why you have and don't have and have. Running short.
Well, I appreciate the insight, and at the moment you start saying it, I start looking it up. So
I know you did.
Oh yes, I am. I'm looking at it. I'm looking at it right now.
Yes, and people, we have to know history. And people talk about, that's the past. No, that past and that present is now, the future is now. It's all bundled into one. They're not going to forget it, but they want to wipe it up. No. And people need to stop putting the priorities, prioritizing just good timing in the city. And causing monies to be made with with carnival. I don't call it a jazz fest no more because it's lost identity. And you can't afford to do it. So stop putting priority to that. And register to vote, be encouraged. Otherwise, it's going to still be the same thing.
I appreciate you, Ms. Jones.
Food from children for the summer. I'll ask somebody tenderly, what do you think this governor is doing right? No. Well, why is he in there? Well, did you go vote? And not to insult them, but an eye-opener. Each time some help is given, ask the person, did you vote? Are you a registered voter? Do you know somebody that's becoming of age to register? This is why you have this situation. Not that the organization groups wouldn't help in feeding, but it's because you didn't get out there and vote.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Ms. Jones. I appreciate
the wrong person from getting in.
Thank you so much. Thank you
You're
for
welcome.
calling. Appreciate you. Listen, I totally agree. And I'm actually looking it up right now, Ms. Jones. I'm going to find all of the documentation so that I can understand what I'm processing here. But I do see it. But there's also an article that I want to make y'all aware about. It's dated March 29th. And it says Nord facility, Quinn Hiller, if that's how you pronounce the last name, first name Quinn. Nord facilities were awful, but renewal may have begun. And it's talking about this very thing that is happening right now, right before our eyes. The subject arose and took urgency from a Substack post last December by former longtime local prosecutor Laura Canizero Rodriguez, blasting Nord for the horrid state of despair of many of its playgrounds. Rodriguez reporting, full of photographic evidence, depicted fields in dangerous conditions, garbage-filled concession areas, fallen electrical boxes, bleachers broken beyond repair, strong odors of urine and feces, and even homeless encampments at the playground. Well, here's my thing, Laura. If you see a thing that needs rehabilitation, you rehabilitate the thing. You don't take the money and go somewhere and rebuild the thing that you're trying to talk about needs fixing. Because even if you go over there to UNO and fix those facilities, guess what's going to happen to those same facilities that you're talking about? They're going to continue to be dilapidated and ignored and neglected. So what happens to those children who benefit from those programs, Laura? That's what I want to know. So you saw the problem, but your solution to the problem was to take the money, the power, and the resources and go elsewhere and build it. And you think they're going to come because you build it. Those parks rely on those children who live in those communities to participate with it. So what you're telling me is you saw the problem for the children, but you don't want to solve their problem. You want to create a solution for your children. I have a problem with that, but I got to go to break. And when we come back, we're going to jump into conversation with Louis J. Williams, Senior Project Manager for the Lake Pontchartrain Vicinity Branch, USACA New Orleans District. We're going to jump into conversation with him, but we're going to put a pin right here because we're going to pick it up where I put it down when we come back. WBOK 1230 AM, what New Orleans is talking about all day long.
Good morning and happy Tuesday. I'm Morgan Lentis with WDSU News, and here's a look at today's headlines. A woman is behind bars this morning accused of helping escaped inmate Derek Groves. Groves and Antoine Massey are 2 of the 10 men still on the run after breaking out of the Orleans Parish Jail last month. Officials say 28-year-old Dariana Burton is the girlfriend of Groves. She is accused of having conversations with him around the time of his escape and helping him connect with an unidentified man. Burton is expected to appear in court via Zoom later today. And a reminder, there is a $50,000 reward for information to find both men and put them back behind bars. If you know where they are, call Crime Stoppers at 504-822-1111. Well, hurricane season is here, and today Entergy officials will outline what they say they're doing to strengthen the power grid. A news conference will be held at 11 a.m. Local leaders will detail the first phase of Entergy's Accelerated Resilience Plan, which is a citywide strategy to strengthen our electric grid. The announcement is happening on General de Gaulle in Algiers near the Cypress Plaza Shopping Center, again at 11 a.m. And finally, we now know when LSU will play its next game on the team's road to another national championship. They will face Arkansas this Saturday in Omaha at 6 p.m. Central. And that is a look at today's headlines. I'm Morgan Lentis with WDSU. Have a great day.
This is the Bloomberg Black Business Beat, brought to you by FidelityWealthManagement.com. One United Bank is one of the nation's largest black-owned banks. Kevin Cohey is chairman and CEO, and he spoke to Bloomberg about how One United's embrace of new technology is a big part of how it's able to serve so many people.
The reason the company has grown so fast and we have such a large breadth of customers is because of our technology. That's what's unique about us. Our data aggregation technology is second to none, i.e. our ability to pull together all your financial information no matter where it is, so you can actually literally understand on a real-time basis where you are financially.
One United Bank is investing in AI to help enhance the digital banking experience.
Which, by the way, we've been working on for over a decade, which takes that same information and helps you to make better financial decisions on a real-time basis.
I'm Bloomberg's Justin Milliner on the Black Business Beat.
With Fidelity Wealth Management, a dedicated advisor gets to know you and your goals to build a comprehensive plan to help grow and protect your wealth. Backed by a team of specialists, they'll analyze all your accounts, even the ones they don't manage, to keep an eye on taxes and provide proactive portfolio insights that can help you unlock your wealth's full potential. Learn more at fidelity.com/wealth. Investment minimums apply. Fidelity Brokerage Services, LLC. Member NYSE SIPC.
Now more than ever, Lowe's knows you don't just want a low price, you want the lowest price. And with our lowest price guarantee, you can count on us for competitive prices on all your home improvement projects. If you find a qualifying lower price somewhere else on the same item, we'll match it. Lowe's, we help, you save. Price match applies to same item, current price at qualifying retailers. Exclusions and terms apply. Learn how we'll match price at Lowe's.com/lowest price guarantee.
Hey, this is Steve Poston. Be sure to listen to WBOK 1230 AM every Saturday morning at 10 a.m. and Sunday evening at 5 p.m., bringing you the best Southern Soul barroom music with the Southern Soul Weekend Party Mix, hosted by me, of course. I'll be playing your favorite Southern Soul music by artists from all over the South, right here on WBOK 1230 AM or online at WBOK1230.com. The station you listen to longer. Listen to longer. Listen to longer.
Connect with NOLA Public Schools. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and X for the latest updates. Sign up for District Digest, our official newsletter where we share district achievements, celebrate student successes, and keep you informed about our vision of providing a high-quality education. And don't miss our school board meetings. Watch in person or live stream on YouTube. Stay informed. Stay engaged. Visit NOLAPublicSchools.com today. Again, that's NOLAPublicSchools.com.
Hello, I'm Gary Clark. Please tune in to Dr. Clark 101, The Living Classroom, which is broadcasted weekly every Wednesday at 12:30 p.m. on WBOK 1230 AM on your dial. And as always, it's been a pleasure.
Making a difference in the community. WBOK 1230 AM.
Good morning, Wake Up.
The Good Morning Show.
Good morning.
On WBOK.
Happy Tuesday, everyone. If you're just joining the conversation, you missed an impassioned one. But I promise you, I'm going to go back to it. But right now, I'm talking to Jeff Williams, Senior Project Manager for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, New Orleans District. Good morning, Jeff. Good morning. How you doing?
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
So first and foremost, can you start by introducing yourself and your role with the Army Corps of Engineers?
So I'm Jeff Williams, Senior Project Manager of the Lake Pontchartrain and Vicinity Project. My portfolio consists of two major projects, which is the West Shore Lake Pontchartrain project and also the PCC pump station project here in New Orleans. And those projects traverse across four parishes: Orleans, St. John, St. James, and St. Charles parishes.
So for those of us and our listening audience who may not be familiar with the work that this organization does, can you tell us the overall mission of the New Orleans District of the United States Corps of Engineers?
Yes. So
the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers,
yes,
I'm sorry.
So our main focus is to provide risk reduction, also navigation up and down the Mississippi, dredging, ecosystem restoration. We are a very, very, very important part of South Louisiana. We go about our business quietly, but as long as that Mississippi River is moving, it needs to move cargo, goods, oil and gas. What we do to not only South Louisiana and Louisiana in general, but the entire country is extremely important.
So what is the purpose of this infrastructure, and why is it critical for New Orleans?
So I'll start with the PCC project. So if you're not familiar, those the pump stations that are along Lakeshore Drive that people see, they probably wonder what they are. Brief history: before Katrina, those pump stations did not exist. We know that water pushed down the lake. Then there was breaches on the 17th Street Canal and the London Canal, right? So for Katrina, to make it short, we now have perimeter protection on those systems. So the way it works is every single drop of water that happens in New Orleans is pumped out of the city through Sewage and Water Board pumps. That water then goes into what we call those three outfall canals at Orleans, London, and 17th Street Canal, and goes into the lake. Under normal circumstances, the gates at those pump stations are open. It rains, Sewage and Water Board's pumps are doing their thing, the water gets out to the lake.
So this has been like a post-Katrina investment. Y'all shored this thing up since Katrina.
Absolutely.
Is what you're saying.
That's exactly what I'm saying. So when those pumps, when there's a storm in the Gulf and we have certain trigger points that happen, the gates close so that storm surge don't come from Lake Pontchartrain like it did for Katrina down those canals. But you say, wait a minute, it's still raining. How does that water get out? That's when these pump stations go to work. So the water is then pumped out and over the closed gates into Lake Pontchartrain. So it's keeping the storm surge out. Meanwhile, it's still taking the water from Sewage and Water Board and pumping it into the lake. Now, those pumps have been in place for several years. Back in 2022, there was a overheating issue that the Flood Protection Authority found. They called us back. Hey, what's going on with these pumps? Make a long story short, there was significant corrosion in those pumps. So over the last couple of years, we've been working significantly to get those pumps back in service. There's 17 pumps total between those three stations. And we were scheduled to take 3 years to do this project. They did 4 last season. We were scheduled to do 8 this season. But the team did everything it could to do all the pumps, which we did, and we can proudly report that all 13 pumps were completed this year, and now 17 pumps have a 35-year design life ready to go to do their thing in providing risk reductions for the citizens of New Orleans.
So, Jeff, are you saying to me in my listening audience that all 17 of these pumps are operable?
Absolutely. Ready to go as of May 30th, 2 days before hurricane season, we were fully operable.
So I think you might have touched on this kind of briefly, but what improvements or innovations have been incorporated into the PCC system that set it apart from previously flood protection strategies?
Mostly it's the changing out of metal. So without getting too technical, there was some dissimilar metals happening. Sometimes when you have stainless steel and carbon steel touching each other, it causes oxidation really fast to cause corrosion. Now we went in, made those corrections along with our partners at the JV. We also invested in other things that were not in a design deficiency to the tune of approximately $24 million to upgrade, add cathodic protection, upgrade the metals to all stainless steel, which we know won't corrode. So that's what gives us the 35-year design life that we're looking for.
So do we have to see like torrential rain to see if the pumps are working, or because how do we know if they're operable? I don't want to wait till something like a Katrina happens for the city to tell me, Jeff, one of the pumps is down. You know what I mean? So how do we know that they're working and
that
operable?
That is a good question. So, but let me make sure I clear something up.
Okay.
So 2 things. To answer your question first, the Flood Protection Authority, they're the ones who operate, maintain the pumps.
Okay.
And they exercise those pumps once a month, even when they're not working. Now, you said a torrential rain.
Mm-hmm.
It can be a torrential rain tomorrow.
I know.
Those pumps will not operate. Okay. That is not what the purpose of these pumps are for.
Okay.
A lot of people confuse mostly what the Corps of Engineers does, which is storm damage and risk reduction from hurricanes or tropical storms. Only when we close those gates, if there's a threat of a storm, are these pumps intended to run.
Got you.
Under normal interior drainage rain situations, like we have in the summertime, those pumps for that Sewage and Water Board pumps into that canal, the canal is open and it goes into the lake. These pumps that I'm talking about only operate during a storm that's in the Gulf when the gates at Lake Pontchartrain are closed, so we then can pump out and over.
Well, that's why I'm glad I asked the question, because I knew if I was confusion, then somebody in the comments was confused as well.
It happens all the time.
So thank you for the clarity there. So we were talking about the permanent canal closures and pumps. Let's talk about the West Shore Lake Pontchartrain project. Can you give us an overview of what this project aims to accomplish?
Absolutely. So it's a 18.5-mile system that spans mostly in St. John, but part of St. Charles and St. James parishes. Just a little bit history. This project is about 30 years in the making, but got significant headway in 2012 under the Obama administration after Hurricane Isaac. We remember devastation in the La Place area and we got this funding in 2018 to do this project to the tune of $760 million, then another $450 million, and then future levy lifts to a tune of $3.6 billion. That's what this project aims to protect 60,000 residents in those three parishes, and we're scheduled to complete that project by 2029.
So what communities will benefit most from the West Shore Lake Pontchartrain project?
Like I said, mostly the St. John's parishes is the main beneficiary of those this project, but it's 60,000 residents and structures. It's a massive project that we're super proud of.
So, and that goes into this question about the geography. The geography of the West Shore Lake Pontchartrain area presents some unique challenges. How does the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers address these, and how does the project move forward?
Oh man, that's a great question. Without being too technical, we're building levees in the middle of the swamp. We know if you dig a hole for your fence post, you find water. So it is super unique. We have to do some innovative strategies in order to make sure that the foundation is strong enough, which we do wick drains, and you can Google all of this stuff. Wick drains.
That's what we're gonna have to do because we don't work for the U.S. Corps. I'm gonna have to Google that.
Yeah, so we do preloads, we add sand, we do all these things to gain strength, so that when we put the levee on top of this virgin swamp as we call it, we know that we will get the strength it needs not to settle and still hold up over time.
So, talking to me here and kind of just understanding what you do you guys do do y'all go out into communities and talk to people directly, and how do you just make it plain for them? Because it sounds super technical what you do, but it's so important. So how do you make a layperson understand the scope of your work and what it does to protect us in the event of a Katrina?
Absolutely. We do public outreach all the time. A part of, even why I'm here today, is to tell our story. Our leadership and Colonel Jones and Deron Elzey, they are adamant about us telling our story because a lot of people don't know we do. So we do public meetings. I can tell you one of the projects that is a point of contention, I'm not on that project, but is the IHNC Lock in the 9th Ward. We are always doing public meetings, meeting with the community, telling them what the impact. And part of what we do as part of federal regulation is always to have public participation in public meetings, trying to educate our community as much as we can. So we do that. And the one-on-one conversations is probably where I know when I'm talking to people is where we can get, people to understand.
Same, because you know, when you're on interviews and things of that nature, you have to have the technical aspect. But when you really just talk to people, you can kind of just make it plain.
Yep.
And I think that's the strength in understanding what you do. You clearly understand what you do, so then you could just bring it down to a level where the person who has no technical understanding of what you do, they will just feel safer if you just make it plain for them, because you're doing some real serious work. But folk don't even know it's happening because they don't understand the technicality of it all. Like, what's the difference between the Army Corps of Engineers and the Sewage and Water Board?
Yes.
How does y'all work merge? Like, how do we know who's responsible for what? That's why I'm glad these sorts of conversations are coming to WBO. I'm glad you came to us to talk about it, because we need to know. So how can residents learn more or get involved in understanding how these systems protect them?
Well, one, our social media pages, we post about what we're doing all the time, all the projects. I always like to push out, like I mentioned this before, we'll post something and it'll say wick drains, and in AI on Facebook will say, want to know about wick drains, and you press that button and it does exactly what you're talking about. So I saw that little feature last year, and I thought it was pretty accurate for the most part to break down these technical terms. So follow us on all of our social media, our website. We're constantly posting, talking about what we're doing, why it's important to the community, and what we have coming forward. And I like to say, listen, what we do is extremely important. I'm going to give you an idea. The Corps of Engineers worldwide, total obligations was a little over $9 billion, over 44 districts around the world. Right here in Little New Orleans, we executed $1.3 billion of work right here in South Louisiana.
So
of
you
the
busy,
9
busy.
billion. Yeah, we're super busy. Of course, we know what's going on with in the federal government, so we're even busier right now. But we're committed to accomplishing a mission. That's what we do, Army Strong. So we're going to continue to do that. But just know that we do super important work over on Leak Avenue. People don't understand it. We're not looking for the accolades or anything like that. But what we do is extremely important, not only to South Louisiana, but to the entire country, for the oil and gas industries, for the fisheries, and all the things that we take part in and we don't even think about. We're doing that important work for the
So
community.
you mentioned your social medias and your website. Can you give us that information for our listening audience, if you can remember?
I
Because we
don't.
could always Google it,
No,
right?
yeah, I'm
and guess
sorry.
what?
I know it's
That's
New
okay.
Orleans District.
I'm gonna Google it and I'm gonna make sure I share. But do you have the website or any contact information in case somebody wanted to ask a question or get clarity on something that we spoke about
Yes.
here?
Unfortunately, it's a bunch. It's usace.army.mil and
Oh, a
then
lot of that.
all of that
Okay,
stuff.
I
But
got
if you put New Orleans Army Corps of Engineers, New Orleans District, it'll get there.
Okay.
And the cool thing about this project and any of our project, it has a fact sheet that you can download to give you the high level points about what we're doing and what the project about, and how many people and how much it costs and when it's scheduled to be complete and all of that good stuff. So it's right there, it's out there, and we invite everybody to come take a look.
So I'm gonna get my super producer Naren to look up the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers website so he can drop it in the chat for those of, because I guarantee somebody's gonna call. They always call the phone line and ask us questions based on what the guest said or any clarity around what the guest said. But if we can link them to where your information is, that would be best. So what would you say to residents who are concerned about hurricane season and want reassurance that these systems will hold up? I think I asked you that earlier in it, but just plainly, what do you say to folk who are concerned?
So I'm going to say this, like I said earlier, the first thing, and I'm going to go back specific to the PCCP project, because that is a finished and functional system that the Flood Protection Authority operates. First of all, that agency is doing a phenomenal job and has done a phenomenal job of operating and maintaining those pumps under leadership of Roy Karuba, the board president. So those pumps are ready to go more than ever. However, even with the system, $14 billion system that we have in place, those pumps and everything else, we always say, listen to your local authority. Don't get a false sense of security that because we have all this $14 billion system in place that you're 100% protected. You notice I don't use the word protection, risk reduction. Yes, we reduce the risk, but there's always risk there. So we say pay attention to your local government and state government and do as much as you can to protect yourself and your family.
So for those of you who are listening, we're going to link the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers website into our chat so that you can get more information or track the progress of these projects. And that would be the permanent canal closures and pumps and the West Shore Lake Pontchartrain project. But are there any final thoughts you'd like to share with the residents of New Orleans and the surrounding area as it relates to the important work that you do for the U.S. Corps of Engineers?
I think I've said it already. Just to know that we're doing important work, and it's critical work to this community, and it's we're a federal government, but we're like a Fortune 500 company.
You're a little quiet, Storm, huh? You're just so quiet, but you're a force.
No,
a little quiet force.
I get it in when I need to.
I can tell. Look, you have a caller on line one. Good morning, Reverend Calhoun. Welcome to the Good Morning Show. You're on with Jeff Williams.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Given the fact that the lower Ninth Ward has been impacted by two storms that the Corps was supposed to protect us from, my concern now is, will that billion-dollar project that was over in not the Gulf, but over there that Katrina came through, will it be able to withstand another Katrina? Should we get one? And will we ever be able to really feel comfortable from a storm based on what past history has been? I'll hang up and listen.
Right.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you for the question. Listen, the system, the HISRA system, that the $14 billion system that he's referring to and that I mentioned earlier, that system has been in place for several years and has been tested already.
Mm-hmm.
We've had the Idas, we've had other tropical storms, so it has been tested and has held up thus far. I would say that if the exact same storm came in, exact same way, exact same thing as Katrina, I would feel very confident in the system. However, I will never tell you, I just won't use the word comfortable, right?
Mhm.
We build systems to reduce risk. We don't 100% protect. We feel good about the system that we've built. We feel good about what we continue to do because there was a lot of lessons learned from prior to Katrina. I can tell you there was no complete system before Katrina. It did not exist. It was a system in name, but it never was a complete system. Now we have a complete system with new designs. We learn from people all over the world, and that system has been built and has been tested several times already. So I'm confident in saying that I feel pretty good about it, but I would never use the word. I wouldn't be comfortable. Ever.
Well, I'm confident in your confidence, okay?
Yes.
And I'm not going to tell you the joke that somebody just texted to me. I'm going to tell it to you off the air.
Okay.
You and your father-in-law.
Okay.
I'm going to tell both of y'all off the air. And if he listening, he going to know it's about him, but we're going to leave it right there.
Roger.
But look, I want to say thank you for joining us this morning. Shout out to Ms. Leslie Bowie for ensuring that this interview took place, because you were interviewing in other places, and she thought that information needed to come over here to this little black radio station, and we appreciate her for that.
Absolutely.
And anytime you want to come back and update us on the phenomenal work that you're doing with the Army Corps of Engineers, you will always have a seat at this table. Even, I mean, if you want to talk to the front porch, you could do that too, but I would rather you come talk to me.
No, listen, we were on other places. You said we need to get over here by our folks, and I'm absolutely like, let's go. Where do I sign up? And here I am. So
well,
thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you, Jeff. Listen, we have to go to break, but when we come back, we're going to talk about it like we talk about it right here on WBOK. But I want to thank Jeff Williams, the Senior Project Manager for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, for joining us this morning, talking to us about ensuring that we feel confidence and your confidence in our protection. We thank you for being here this morning. We'll be right back. This is WBOK 1230 AM, what New Orleans is talking about all day long.
This is your news update for WBOK from WDSU. For all your news and weather, watch WDSU News, New Orleans' leader in live, local, late-breaking news. Today at noon and 4 p.m.
Partly cloudy, but showers and thunderstorms ramp up for the afternoon and evening. Will still be hot today. Highs reach the low 90s, feeling like the upper 90s. Windstorms do arrive. Expect frequent lightning, heavy downpours, and strong winds. There is the potential for flash flooding. Also, a couple of storms could turn strong to severe. More rain and 90s expected for the rest of the week. From the WDSU First Warning Weather Center, I'm Raven Richard.
Hi, this is Cary Grant. Let's elevate every Tuesday through Thursday from 6 to 7 p.m. as we discuss the community, the country, and the world, from politics to current events and sports. We look forward to your input and continuing the quality programming on your community station, WBOK. Join us every Tuesday through Thursday, 6 to 7 p.m. on Elevated Conversations, the Arnie and Cary Show.
Accrue NOLA is transforming how professionals connect and grow. Join them for Fed by Accrue, a community networking celebration that honors both Juneteenth and Pride Month while celebrating the power of diverse voices in business. This isn't a typical networking. Accrue has created a safe, inclusive space where genuine connections lead to meaningful collaborations. On Thursday, June 19th, innovators from across the greater New Orleans area and the Gulf South will gather at the lab on Ursulines Ave for purposeful conversation with industry leaders and authentic relationship building that advances your professional career and business growth. Accrue connects you with established industry leaders and emerging entrepreneurs who share practical insight and business resources. These connections translate into real opportunities for career advancement and business growth. Come join a community where authenticity meets opportunity, where diverse perspectives drive innovation, and where meaningful partnerships are built to last. Fed by Accrue, Thursday, June 19th from 5 p.m. till 8 p.m. at the Lab, 2600 Ursulines Ave. Learn more and join the community at accruenola.com/RSVP.
Hey, New Orleans, look for important changes to your natural gas service. This summer, Delta Utilities takes over for Entergy Gas with a Louisiana-born, Louisiana-based approach to safe, clean, reliable natural gas. No interruptions or rate changes due to the transition, just dependable service and modernized technology to keep you running smoothly. Get to know us at deltautilities.com and stay tuned for more later this summer. Delta Utilities, focused on natural gas, committed to New Orleans.
Visit DePaul's new Algiers Health Center at 2801 General de Gaulle Drive to receive primary and preventive care for both adults and children. Services also include behavioral health, imaging, and on-site pharmacy, vision, Medicaid enrollment assistance, and more. For appointments, visit DePaulCommunityHealthCenters.org or call 504-207-3060.
The doctor's office that accidentally mixed up your files has your social security number. The power company that mistakenly cut your service has your payment info. And the hotel that lost your reservation has your passport number. You need LifeLock because your personal info is in endless places that can expose you to identity thieves. LifeLock monitors hundreds of millions of data points every second. If your identity is stolen, we'll fix it, guaranteed or your money back. Save up to 40% with promo code NEWS at LifeLock.com. Terms apply.
Good morning, Wake Up.
The Good Morning Show. Good morning. On WBOK.
And we are back. Welcome back to the Good Morning Show. Happy Tuesday, everybody. I am your host, Dr. Ashanta White. Shout out to my super producer, Nyron Sanders. And listen, I want to thank our previous guest, Mr. Jeff Williams, Senior Project Manager for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, for joining us this morning, talking to us about several projects that they're working on and ensuring that we are confident in our protections should we face any sort of catastrophic disaster such as Hurricane Katrina. They're confident, he's very confident in the structures that have been built post-Katrina. So I want to thank him for joining us this morning. And if you weren't on the inside of that joke that we were having before the break, it's a buoy thing, and it's just fun. So shout out to Big Doc. Shout out to Joe Boy and Leslie Boy. We appreciate who you are to this community, each and every one of y'all. So thank you again, Jeff, for joining us this morning. And look, prior to Jeff coming on, we were talking about this postponement of the Orleans Parish School Board's lawsuit against the city. And what I'll say about that, just to kind of wrap that up, is the attorney for the school board says, are there enough resources for students? I don't believe there are enough resources currently. We need more resources so students can get what they need. And that is a direct quote from Bill Aaron, who is the attorney representing the school board. The judge gave the school board 7 days to figure out who the party is that is missing, which is causing the delay over millions of dollars that is claimed to be owed to the Orleans Parish School Board from the city. And I connected this conversation with this this privatization of recreation that is happening and has been happening, because there's an article out there that I wanted to make certain that you guys were aware of, whereby they were talking about the supposed dilapidation of the NAR programs. And you know, my answer to that is very simple. And I'll say it again. If we can go to a thing, whatever that thing is, whether it's the school system, whether it's housing, whether it's recreation, if we can go to a thing and we can identify all of the gap areas, all of the areas that need improvements, all of the growth areas, what is the sense in collecting the data to then say we're going to use that data to inform a new project, as opposed to filling the gap areas, improving the weaknesses, supporting the infrastructure that is already there? So I am extremely confused at how folk can't see the play. This is exactly what happened to the school system. They swooped in at the most vulnerable moment, and they started to tell us all of the wrong things that were a part of the school system. The buildings were dilapidated. The kids weren't learning. There were no resources. All of these things that they discovered, like Christopher, But instead of pouring those resources into it, instead of improving the infrastructure in terms of the building, instead of shoring up the teaching prowess of our workforce, because let's not act like we didn't have a boatload of certified university trained educators in those buildings at the time, right? Instead of doing those things, you fired 7,500 people, washed away the entirety of the system itself, and said, we're going to come in and start from scratch, and we're going to do it bigger and better and more innovative and more resources, more money. And yet it's still 20 years later, 73% of our children can't read on grade level, and it's been billions with a B, like Biggie, poured into this reform. This is the same thing. Cannot you see it? Right? So if we're going to talk about Laura Canizero Rodriguez and her assertion that NARD is so dilapidated, it's so run down, there's so many problems wrong with it, what I would say to you, Laura, is this. If you found all of the people who have all of the money and all of the resources, how about you improve the very thing that you went and found that you said is in disarray? But if you're only going to tell us it's in disarray and then use us as a reason why you need all of this funding to then go build your own, then what does that say about your investigation? What does that say about your research into it? What does that say about the thing you found that's dilapidated? It's going to continue to be dilapidated, is it not? It's going to continue to smell like urine and feces and run down and broken down, as you so eloquently put it in the article. So your solution is I found the thing in disarray. It's real nasty for children. Children shouldn't be participating in it. But your solution is to go over where a whole different demographic of children are and say, we're gonna take all of the money and funding that we gathered on the backs of the dilapidation, and we're gonna build our own from scratch. And we're gonna pour in all the money, all the resources, all that innovation. And I bet you we ain't gonna have to wait 20 years to see the product. Because now we are better at sniffing out a grift when we see one. We're better. Our vision is sharper. Our ears are leaned in more. So don't play no games with my people, Laura. All I'm asking you to do, when we talk about these things, we're not asking you to give us nothing. We're asking you to stop taking from us. That's what we're asking. We don't need no handouts. We need you to stop taking from us. That's what we're asking you to do. Stop building your wealth off the backs of already impoverished communities of people. That's what we're asking you to do. When we talk equity, we're not asking to integrate in nothing that you're doing. We're asking you to get your hands off our children, get your hands off our schools, get your hands off our communities, and let our children actually have a fighting chance at good schools, good communities, good recreation. Because it exists. It may need improvements. Absolutely. Just as our school system existed, it just needed improvements. But what we do not need is a white savior. We do not need you to put on a cape and act as if you're helping the poor little black children in New Orleans, because you're not. You're using the poor little black children in New Orleans as data points to get that funding that you need to go help the kids that you actually want to help. Yes, I said it, and I stand on it. Prove me wrong. That's all I'm asking you to do. Y'all acting like somebody wants y'all to give us something. No, we don't. We want y'all to stop taking from us when we build it. We asking y'all to stop using our children like science experiments to get funding. We're asking you to stop using them as data points and then hide the report when we're asking you about that data. That's what we're asking, Laura. And you're a smart lady. So you understand exactly what I'm saying, even if I have a little passion on it. You understand exactly what I'm saying, and you know it's rooted in truth. That's why y'all so disturbed when I talk about it. So let's be clear. If NARD needs assistance, then we give them the assistance. If they need resources, we give them resources. But what we do not do is use articles and interviews to malign them and beat them down to get the funding that you need to go help the children that you actually want to help. NARD is already in existence. So recreation is not back. Recreation was already here. I got to go to break. But when I come back, I'm going to talk about it because you want to hear about it. Right here, WBOK 1230 AM, what New Orleans is talking about all day long.
WBOK New Orleans. Home of the Good Morning Show, 7 to 9 a.m. weekdays.
This news report is brought to you by New Schools for New Orleans.
New Schools for New Orleans is committed to keeping and finding great teachers for our students in Orleans Parish. If you or someone you know is interested in becoming a teacher for the 25-26 school year, let us help you. We've created the New Orleans Teacher Job Board, which is the official job platform of public schools in New Orleans. You can apply to any school in the city. Simply post your resume and provide information about yourself. Visit our website to learn more and apply. www.neworleansteacherjobboard.org.
I'm Alexandria Ikamoni with BIN News Now. Pro-immigration activists in Chicago are protesting the Trump administration's immigration crackdown. Illinois Congressman Jesus Garcia spoke to the crowd that gathered for a rally.
This isn't about safety. This is about control. Fear is the tactic. Silence is the goal.
Week 5 of testimony in the sex trafficking and racketeering trial of Sean Diddy Combs is underway. During testimony on Monday, one of Combs' former girlfriends, who was using the name Jane in the trial, testified she once had to use makeup to cover her bruises from an alleged physical confrontation with Combs. The BET Awards took place Monday night in Los Angeles. SZA was named Best Female R&B and Pop Artist, and Chris Brown was named Best Male R&B and Pop Artist. Get BIN News Now on demand 24/7 on the iHeartRadio app.
Good morning, Wake Up.
The Good Morning Show. Good morning. On WBOK.
Welcome back. Good morning, everybody. Happy Tuesday, and welcome back to the Good Morning Show. I am your host, Dr. Ashanta Wyatt. Shout out to my super producer, Nyron Sanders. Listen, if you just joined us, you're in for a treat. We're here in studio with Dr. Jose Calderon, Medical Director for Behavioral Health at United Healthcare. Good morning, Doc. Welcome to the Good Morning Show. How you doing?
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
No, listen, it's our pleasure. Our pleasure. So with hurricane season fast approaching, it is crucial for all Louisianians, especially those with health-related issues, to be prepared both physically and emotionally. Dr. Jose Calderon is the Chief Medical Officer for Behavioral Health for United Healthcare, and you're here to discuss the essential tips to help people stay safe and prepared for hurricanes or any natural disaster. We've been talking to quite a few folk as it relates to hurricane preparedness.
Yes.
But I'm excited to talk to you because here's the mental health component attached to it, because we do know it is traumatic to experience something as catastrophic as a Hurricane Katrina or any hurricane for that matter.
Yes.
So thank you for being here with your expertise.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me, and to your audience, good morning.
Absolutely. So what are some of the tips people with health-related issues should consider when preparing for a natural disaster?
Well, that's a great question. So first, cover the basics, right? So we need to refill medications, make sure they're included in your medical equipment, in your emergency bag. I think we all need to have an emergency bag, right? In case we need to evacuate, we need to move, have things ready. And that includes medications, prescriptions, if needed, health insurance documents, other important documents, identification, a set of clothes, flashlight, batteries, non-perishable food for your pet including, and for ourselves, right? And other essentials that our families may need, right? So make sure we have that. Make sure that if people are using medical equipment, like people that have a CPAP machine at home for sleep apnea or so, that the machines are batteried up and that they know how long the battery is going to last, and have an evacuation plan in case you need it, right?
Right. And so more often than not, folk only think about your physical health
Yes.
when a disaster happens.
Yes.
Can you talk to us about the emotional toll that a
Absolutely.
disaster takes on folk?
Absolutely. So many of us that have lived here for many times and we have gone through this experience, it can be nerve-wracking, right? To see a storm looming in the horizon. So many of us will feel anxiety, will feel irritable. That's a form of anxiety, irritability, nervousness. We stop losing sleep. We may increase our appetite and want from comfort foods or lose the appetite. We may feel very cynical and start having a very dark humor, right? We may feel lack of concentration, be forgetful. All of those are signs of increased stress. We need to pay attention that those are happening. Those are like red lights that says, okay, there's something going on. I need to pay attention to it.
And you know, when I think about hurricanes, right, we're so accustomed to them.
Yes.
I think Katrina was something different for us because we had never seen anything of that magnitude
Yes.
prior to that. And I think it changed the way we view the idea of hurricane preparedness and just
Yes.
being ready in the event that something happens. But what about the mental toll it takes on families who don't have the means or the resources, no matter, you know, if they know ahead of time that the storm is coming?
Yes.
What does that do physically and mentally for a family to just know you just don't have the means and the resources and you have to rely on governmental intervention?
Sure. Well, that's a great point. And so I think that looking support for people that are in similar circumstances, looking for the agencies that are going to be of help here, non-profit organizations that are of help, your health insurance company, also case managers are helpful here, very helpful. We should rely on them. So put all the scaffolding around us as much as we can, right? So yes, government and, you know, the neighbors, the people like us, our insurance companies, case managers, non-profits, all of them are here to help. And be
I mean,
ready.
you make a good point there because Katrina, as catastrophic as it was, it forced us to be community.
Yes.
It forced us to look out for our neighbors. It forced us to share and to pool resources because we didn't know when the help would come.
That's
So
right.
we had to rely on each other. So I think that is a wonderful point that you're making there. So who is more likely at risk for emotional trauma following a natural disaster?
Well, those of us have experienced one, right? We'll have anniversary reactions to that. The very old and the very young, so children, elderly people, right? History of trauma that in our life for whatever reason, right? Whatever the cause of the trauma, people with severe mental illness, with substance use disorders, and certainly first responders, healthcare providers, anybody involved in the recovery efforts are also at risk.
And we don't talk enough about the mental health of first responders and the
Mhm.
people who are tasked with going in and getting people out.
Yes.
Like we just assume that they're going to be there, and we take for granted that they're human beings too with families who'd
Yes.
have to also try to get out of harm's way.
Yes.
So that's also a good point to think about it because I just think it's not necessarily an afterthought, but we're just not thinking or censoring the people who are coming in to help us get out.
That's right.
So that's a very, very good point to make. But how can we help ourselves and others in the midst of a natural disaster?
Well, gather information as much as you can from reputable sources, right? Some of the emergency response websites, this news outlet, those are reputable resources. And then connect with people, right? As I mentioned, connect with agencies and people and neighbors so we can take care of each other, right? If we need help, accept support for the help that we need, if it's been offered. Help others is a wonderful way of getting ready and stay prepared. And that means many of us through hurricanes, you see the neighbors in a block getting together to help each other, right? Checking on each other, right? Who is the vulnerable person, the elderly person living next to us, the single mother, right? That may need some help. Talk to them. What are their plans, right? So that's part of looking after each other with this. And then the things that I mentioned earlier, take care of your hurricane preparedness evacuation plan and evacuation bags, right? So those are important.
So do you guys have any partnerships with other organizations? And I'm talking about United Healthcare. Do you guys have any partnerships with other organizations or first responders or entities that are put in place to be a resource hub for folk who are facing natural disaster?
We do. We've been conducting periodic resilience trainings for first responders. So that's a very interesting thing that we're doing, and it's been very welcomed by them. We also we're in close communications with the emergency response services in the course of an event. We have multiple relationships with local nonprofits that provide meals, we have transportation, right? Medicaid transportation for members that may be needed. And certainly we have connections with healthcare systems within the state and outside the state if needed for people that need to evacuate, right? So yes, multiple.
So is there a hub, like a website or a social media page where folk can go to visit to get this information in terms of who your partners are, or who should they reach out to should they need your services?
Sure. In the back of their member card, if they still have their card, they can call and ask for care management. They can call just the assistance for members with United Healthcare, or if any insurance card in the back of the card has any number for assistance for that. The www.uhc.com has a lot of information about that. And in case of any emergencies, call 988 for behavioral emergencies or 911 for medical emergencies. And certainly, I will guide anybody to the Louisiana Go SEP, right, which is the resource for emergency preparedness.
So you mentioned resilience training for first responders.
Yes.
Is there a resilience training for regular, everyday citizens who have experienced the trauma of a natural disaster, who may not feel confident in, facing another one? Is there some sort of training that they too can go through to ensure their safety and they are making the right decisions? Because some people panic. They don't make the right choices. They decide too late to evacuate for whatever reason that might be. So is there training for folk who have experienced this sort of trauma and to help them how to navigate it should they face it again?
That's a great point. So I'll tell you that we have resources right now on the member website and the member resources on techniques and guided techniques to help people deal with stress. But to your point, it's great to think about a particular training that we can offer. And so I'm going to take that as a recommendation that we can then begin to put together a program like the one we do for first responders.
Yeah, because I'm just thinking, like, we had a guy on prior in the week earlier, or even probably last week, and we were talking about just preparing the kits.
Yes.
And how folk don't even think to put like a can opener in the kit, because if the power goes out, you need something manual, right?
Yes.
It's things like that when you're in the midst of a storm, no pun intended, that you're just not thinking about. So that's why it's good to think about it on the front end when you're not in the middle of things, when you're not making hasty choices and you have to make a rush decision. Like, we have to start our families preparing for it before it happens. And a lot of us prepare while it's going on.
Yes.
Like, we're trying to rush and pack things up.
Yes.
And so I think about that, and I think about how simple it sounds to a person who's thinking it through. But for a mother with 3-4 children, and she's thinking about this, that, and the other, she's not thinking about that in the moment.
That's right.
So I think that sort of training, just to kind of put our mind on the things that we won't think are important until it becomes important.
Yes.
Right? You only have canned goods. How are you going to open it? Right? There's no power, things like that. Even how to use generators. We've lost people in our city because they have the generator, but they don't know how far away from the home to use it.
Yes, that's
right. You know, that it shouldn't be inside the home. Just little things like that. And when folk die, you think, like, shouldn't they know that? But you're like, well, no, they didn't, obviously.
Sure.
And so it's just thinking through those sorts of layers of understanding how to prepare for a storm. And it's not just physically getting in your car, gassing up and leaving. It's should you have to hunker down, what are the safety mechanisms to make certain that you live through the floodwaters, but also that you don't do anything that could cause your demise as well.
Absolutely. That's a great point.
Yeah, so those are the things, when we have the experts like yourself on, that help me think through that.
Yes.
And I think a resilience training for community is something that we should also consider. Like, how do we help ourselves? Because first responders can only do so much.
I think it's a wonderful point, and we're going to take it for consideration to build something like that and partner, right, with those experts that are already doing some of that work. We have work right now that are doing in schools for the teachers and parents of certain schools talking about resilience and stress management. But it's a broader topic that you're bringing up, and I think, or more specific topic to hurricane and disaster preparedness, right?
Yeah.
So certainly, thank you.
Oh, no problem. We want to be partners. Like, we
Yes.
want to be think partners. I have to do my best work when I'm talking to other like-minded people and they're saying things, and then it jogs my brain and makes me think of something. And so I'm also thinking about folk who already have mental health issues.
Yes.
And it could be exacerbated by a storm, but then they're evacuating. Is there like a virtual line that they can call to maybe talk to somebody to stay connected to the resource,
Yes.
even if they're not close to the resource? Is there
Yes.
something like that happening that you can share with us?
Absolutely. So the telephone number on the back of the card is the best way to do this, right? And, internet is going to be out sometimes.
Yeah.
But they can always make a phone call or text, right? We start sending also automatic text messages. And if people need any help, that they can click on that and they'll be connected with somebody and ask for care management. I mean, that is a tremendous resource. Now, interesting to know is that when there's a declared emergency, we stop prior authorizations for medical services, so physicians just can take care of people. We lift any early refills stops that we may have for medications, so people can just refill their medications wherever they are, in state or out of state, for these things. So we remove all of the barriers that they may have to facilitate things. And if they forget what medications, they can call in, and we have a list of their medications, based on their claims of what we've been offering them, right?
And we're talking about mental health. How important is youth mental health in the conversation about overall mental health?
This is a great question. So very important. And we tend to think that there's nothing for them to do. There's always a chore for somebody, regardless of the age, to do. Obviously, a toddler, they can't. But young kids can help out with something. Carry this water, carry this bag here, something. But you put them to use, and it helps them deal with their own anxiety and stress, right? So we need to look after them, play with them, but also give them small tasks that are age appropriate for them. So they're part of the team.
Well, absolutely. And then my other concern is, who cares for the caretakers? Like, who's caring for you if you're putting together all of these things to help community, to talk about, how do we take care of our first responders? Okay,
Yes.
so where do you get your help to ensure that you are where you need to be able to continue to pour into other folk? Who's doing that for someone in your position?
Well, first of all is me, right? I have to learn skills. This is where I was mentioning that we have skills. People need to learn skills, whether it's 5 minutes of breathing, of pacing ourselves, distracting ourselves with certain things, look for supportive relationships. First of all, we have to take care of ourselves so we can take care of others, right? And if we need help, then we start having symptoms, then be able to reach out for help, right?
Absolutely. I mean, because I think it's important to consider that. Like, some of us are in the business where we don't get to evacuate.
Yes.
When other folk are evacuating,
right.
we have to kind of stay back, deliver the news to people, tell them what the contraflow routes are. Like, we have to be, almost first responders and making sure the information is given out. And that could also take a toll on somebody because you're watching all of this devastation. Because a lot of us didn't experience Katrina in terms of being stuck on somebody's roof, but we were looking at it and watching it in real time, what was happening to our city. And that too was traumatic. I was 7.5 months pregnant during Katrina. It was traumatic for me to be away from my doctor, because at that point I was having weekly doctor visits, and now I no longer have that because I'm in a foreign place, outside of the scope of what my doctor knows, and then they don't have access to my records. They're asking me things. They have to go with what I'm saying. It was a very traumatic time, and I don't think because we're so accustomed to being resilient, I don't think folk in New Orleans really understand the gravity of Katrina even 20 years later.
Yes.
That in itself is traumatic. I thank God that my baby is healthy. He's almost 20 now. But we went through a significant trauma having my son in a city, where my actual physician wasn't.
Yes.
I was at home. My son was still in the ICU. So we went through a very traumatic thing. And then I'm watching. I don't know where my grandmother is, where my mother is. It was very, very traumatic.
Yes.
And so when we think about mental health in terms of natural disaster, it just feels like compiled trauma. Does it?
Yes.
Can we look at it that way?
Absolutely. It's complex trauma and compiled trauma. And also the disasters are not like a single event. Like right now we may have a hurricane on top of a heat dome, right?
Yes.
So, and on top of a COVID exacerbation. So as it happened some years back. So,
and on top of being poor.
Yes.
Right?
And on top of
That's
poverty.
another complex
Absolutely.
that's added, because it's like you want to leave, but you don't have the resources to leave.
Yes.
And then you feel like a failure because you feel like, how can I not take care of my children and get them to safety? I'm telling you all the thoughts I had in my brain during Katrina.
Yes.
Because it was a lot going on, and I appreciate folks in your capacity who come and give us the information and help equip us with the knowledge that we need to be better stewards of the information should we face another disaster such as Hurricane Katrina. But I truly appreciate the idea of you talking about the mental health component of hurricane preparedness or disaster readiness, because that's a real thing. So thank you for your service, and thank you for what you do. But I'm not joking. I want you to make certain that while you're helping to take care of other people, you're taking care of yourself too, Doc, because that's important. You can't pour into people if you got a hole in your cup and you're just draining and draining and draining, because you will run into a wall. I don't think I have to tell you that, but
yes, I
I'm
understand.
speaking from experience.
And I've had that too happen to me. Absolutely.
Yes. Well, look, I want to say thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service to this community. And anytime that you want a microphone to help inform people about what you provide in terms of being prepared should a disaster come, making certain that we're taking care of our mental health, you always have a seat here at WBOK. So thank you so much. We have to go to break.
Thank you.
I want to thank Dr. Jose Calderon, Medical Director for Behavioral Health for United Healthcare, for joining us this morning, talking to us about mental health as we prepare for hurricane season here in the state of Louisiana. So thank you, and you're always welcome back. We appreciate you. We have to go to break, but when we come back, we're going to continue to talk about it. So I hope you continue listening right here, WBOK 1230 AM, what New Orleans is talking about all day long.
Hello, friend. Tavis Smiley here with a special announcement. You can catch my show at a new time. Weekdays from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. Same great topics, same great guests, same great conversations, just a little earlier in the day. It's Tavis Smiley, weekdays 1 to 4 p.m. only on WBOK 1230 a.m. What New Orleans is talking about.
Good morning and happy Tuesday. I'm Morgan Lentis with WDSU News, and here's a look at today's headlines. A woman is behind bars this morning accused of helping escaped inmate Derek Groves. Groves and Antoine Massey are two of the 10 men still on the run after breaking out of the Orleans Parish Jail last month. Officials say 28-year-old Dariana Burton is the girlfriend of Groves. She is accused of having conversations with him around the time of his escape and helping him connect with an unidentified man. Burton is expected to appear in court via Zoom later today. And a reminder, there is a $50,000 reward for information to find both men and put them back behind bars. If you know where they are, call Crime Stoppers at 504-822-1111. Well, hurricane season is here, and today Entergy officials will outline what they say they're doing to strengthen the power grid. A news conference will be held at 11 a.m. Local leaders will detail the first phase of Entergy's Accelerated Resilience Plan, which is a citywide strategy to strengthen our electric grid. The announcement is happening on General de Gaulle in Algiers near the Cypress Plaza Shopping Center, again at 11 a.m. And finally, we now know when LSU will play its next game on the team's road to another national championship. They will face Arkansas this Saturday in Omaha at 6 p.m. Central. And that is a look at today's headlines. I'm Morgan Lentis with WDSU. Have a great day.
Connect with NOLA Public Schools. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and X for the latest updates. Sign up for District Digest, our official newsletter where we share district achievements, celebrate student successes, and keep you informed about our vision of providing a high-quality education. And don't miss our school board meetings. Watch in person or live stream on YouTube. Stay informed. Stay engaged. Visit NOLAPublicSchools.com today. Again, that's NOLAPublicSchools.com.
Hey, New Orleans, look for important changes to your natural gas service. This summer, Delta Utilities takes over for Entergy Gas with a Louisiana-born, Louisiana-based approach to safe, clean, reliable natural gas. No interruptions or rate changes due to the transition, just dependable service and modernized technology to keep you running smoothly. Get to know us at deltautilities.com and stay tuned for more later this summer. Delta Utilities, focused on natural gas, committed to New Orleans.
The New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation is the nonprofit organization that owns the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Festival presented by Shell. With the funds generated from Jazz Fest, the foundation invests in Louisiana companies through economic development, cultural enrichment, and free educational programs. To learn more about what the New Orleans Jazz and Heritage Foundation does, please visit www.jazzandheritage.org.
Making a difference in the community. WBOK 1230 AM.
Good morning, Wake Up.
The Good Morning Show.
Good morning.
On WBOK.
Happy Tuesday, everybody. It is a busy day up in here. We have guests on guests on guests. We have guests everywhere. And I want to say thank you to Dr. Jose Calderon, Medical Director for Behavioral Health at United Healthcare, talking about mental health and youth mental health as we prepare for hurricane season. And right now in studio, I have the other doc, the brain doctor, the heart doctor, the feelings doctor. What kind of doctor? The feelings?
I can go there.
You can go there. We're going to talk to Doc Victor Sims about the psychology of education.
Yeah.
So you trying to get me started. That's what it
I
is?
knew that was right up your alley, but I thought it was something that we really need to have a conversation about because it encompasses so many different things.
Yeah.
When we first hear the word education, we think of going to school and being learning ABCs and reading, writing, arithmetic. Education is a whole lot more than that.
Yeah.
That's just one aspect of it to get us prepared to learn everything else. The education system is set up, well, put it this way. If anyone who's listening to us, if you were able to look outside your window or look at your window, look at your home, everything you look at was built. Everything that was built, somebody had to learn how to do it. That is education. Our society is built upon the ability of us as people to learn how to do things. When we go into school and we get into mathematics, I heard a lot of kids say, I don't know why I need to learn algebra, because what am I going to do with that? Well, if you look at it from a pure education standpoint, it assists you in doing critical thinking, because you have to think. You have to figure things out. That is going to assist you in many things in your life moving forward. Whether or not you're going to be a math teacher, whether or not you're going to just be a lawyer, a doctor, or somebody work for Sewage and Water Board. You need to have education to learn how to do what you do. So education is a very broad thing. I break it down into two main aspects: things that I learn and things that I've been taught. Things that I've been taught is when someone sits down and educates me on how to do this thing called life. Most of these people are extremely important to us, and we pay attention to them. Parents, grandparents, aunts, uncles, older brothers, older cousins, sisters, neighbors, teachers, coaches. These people sit down and educate on specific aspects of life. Then that thing that we learn. Sounds like it's similar, but it's broadly, vastly different. Learned is anything our five senses can detect. Anything we can see, smell, hear, taste, or feel gives us information about the world around us. And we take that information along with the stuff we've been taught, we put them together, and we now go live our lives based upon that information. So education is extremely important, and it's a vast system. And, for educational purposes of learning about historical facts. Why do I need to learn that? Because we need to know what was done that did not work.
Right.
So now we don't repeat those same behaviors. So we can learn things that may have a better chance in working. What does work mean? Work means that we're satisfied. We accomplish goals. We move forward. We improve the quality of our lives and those lives of the people around us. So education is extremely necessary to basically to the survival of our society.
I could not agree more. Listen, we're going to go to the phone lines. Good morning, Larry. Welcome to the Good Morning Show. You're on with Victor Sims and Dr. Wyatt.
Hi, Victor Sims. Hi, Dr. Wyatt. I'm a little late on this subject,
That's okay.
Dr. Wise, but we was talking about Katrina earlier.
Yes.
And I had belonged to an organization when I first got back here. It was predominantly white women, well-to-do uptown white women. And the subject was why the levees broke, when the levees broke. And they say it wasn't Katrina, but the shoddy work that the Corps of Engineers did, not Katrina. When the levees broke, that's when the waters came into New Orleans. So people forget about that. Katrina went mainly to Mississippi, because I was downtown on Canal Street. When it passed, the sun was out. It was a beautiful day. Then the water rushed in. So it was mainly because the Corps of Engineers didn't do a proper shoddy work. That's what they were saying. Now, these are well-to-do white women uptown that say this. And most people, I heard a dude that was an engineer. He said this about the Corps of Engineers. He says most engineers that's really smart don't never go into government because they don't make a lot of money. The best go into the private sector. I'll leave you with that.
Thank you so much, Larry. So he was just talking about an earlier conversation that we had. Yeah, we had Jeff Williams, who was a senior project manager for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. And one of the things Jeff did say on the show related to Larry's comment is that there was never a whole system, like it was never a complete system.
Right.
And now for the first time, there's a complete system that he feels confident because he doesn't want to say comfortable. He said he feels confident in the work that the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers has done since Katrina.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that's a very valid point that Larry's making, but I think that point was underscored by Jeff's visit here because he said it was never a complete system prior to that. Now, why it wasn't, I'm not certain. But I'm grateful that the system is doing more to protect us should we face something as catastrophic as Katrina.
What you normally find in our existence as people, again, using education as the background of this is, we create what's necessary after something occurs.
Yes.
Okay? But before it occurs, we don't know it's necessary.
Yeah.
So we don't have that knowledge in order to do what we need to do next.
Yeah.
And that's almost for every rule, regulation, law that has transpired. Something happened that we did not perceive, had not happened before. We make the necessary adjustments based upon what has transpired.
And let's be clear, we had never seen something to the level of Katrina.
Yeah.
So maybe we were prepared for everything but something as catastrophic as that.
Exactly.
So just to I just want to make certain that Larry felt validated in his assertion because that's something on the minds of everybody who experienced Katrina.
Yeah.
We don't feel like our systems and our city was in the best position to keep us safe at that time. But after Jeff's visit, I'm now understanding that there was never a complete
system.
Yeah. And now he's saying for the first time, we're in a better position.
Again, based upon the need,
we
make the necessary adjustments.
Yeah.
If you've never had experienced something previously, how do you get prepared for something that you've never seen before?
Yeah. But let's talk about the psychology of education.
Yes.
And I want to pull in the conversation that I was having earlier.
No problem.
Because for me, this idea of the city owing the school board money, right? That's point number one. And this other idea about these folk trying to privatize recreation is another point. because we do know education is more than reading, writing, and arithmetic.
Yes,
right?
it is.
That's the reason why recess is incorporated
That's
into
right.
schools. That's why after school programming is there. That's why we have sports and recreation and all of these things
Yes.
to ensure that we are educating the entire child, not just the part of the child that gets us an SPS score, but
Yes.
the entire child, right? So when we talk about the psychology of education, are we going to talk about the psychopathy of miseducation?
Of course.
Because something is happening there where people feel emboldened to miseducate, to misuse our children, and it's profitable. Let's just be honest here. It's profitable, because if there was no profit in it, I've never seen a thief break into an empty house.
No.
I've not seen it, because when they case houses, they make certain that whatever is in there is
It's
valuable
worth it.
enough to risk their freedom for.
That's right. It's worth
right?
it.
So let's talk about this idea of education, just being thrown around like it's an outlier when it really should be the rule and not the exception. Our children are not learning.
We can back up education to slavery days.
Mm-hmm.
It was illegal for certain people, us, to be educated. There's a reason for that. See, once you become an educated person, you fully understand, and you can do critical thinking, which is also taught to you within that time frame. You now can see and understand what's going on around you.
Mm-hmm.
You can understand people's words don't actually mean what they actually say. You can begin to learn to read between the lines to understand what is actually being said or what's not being said.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a motivator to misrepresent information? Of course there are.
Mm-hmm.
Of course there is, or it wouldn't be happening. One of the things about us human beings, this from the psychology component, we as humans do nothing without a reason.
Yeah.
We do some of us understand what that reason is for the individuals making the decisions. That's where the critical thinking comes in. That's where the part of education comes in, for us to be able to recognize that. You are a pure example of being able to read between the lines.
Mm-hmm.
What you do for New Orleans on a daily basis lets us know what is happening where individuals are saying things and what's underneath that.
Thank you.
And so we all need to be critical thinking to challenge what we hear based upon education. But if you're not educated enough or understand it enough, then you might actually fall for what is being said, because it comes in beautiful words, nice words, but the actual reality is something entirely different.
Yes.
And I'm going to use a national incident that's taking place. You hear, we talked before about the villainization of DEI.
Yes.
If someone really thinks about DEI, what it actually means, that's what this country was built on.
Mm-hmm.
But yet now it's vilified because individuals have utilized it to promote their own positions of what they want to do. Again, there's nothing done without a particular purpose. Education can help us to recognize what is really going on, how to challenge the status quo, how to challenge words and phrases that sound wonderful. The whole issue of deporting criminals and rapists, and that's one. But that 16-year-old teenager who was riding in a car that they pulled over as a mistake, she's not a criminal. But yet she's being held.
Well, Doc, you do also know that they are rating graduations.
Yes.
They are rating graduations, which is one of the catalysts for what we're seeing happening
in Los Angeles.
And also, too, there's a clip of the current occupant of the White House, because we're talking about psychopathy here, right? There's a clip of him saying that he believes in law and order. And he doesn't believe that the National Guard or any military should be deployed without permission or a request from the governor.
From the governor.
That is what he said in the
That's
video.
what he said.
But he absolutely went against the governor of L.A. and sent in the National Guard, and now he's sending in Marines.
Yes.
And I believe, and anybody that's watching it should be able to understand that there are bad actors out there in L.A. who are not a part of protesting against the ICE raids. And we know that happens in any protest.
Any protest.
That's why they're covering their faces, because they want to agitate a situation to further exacerbate the militarized way that the Army or I'm not the Army, the military, the National Guard and the Marines are coming in.
Yeah.
Right? And so, and I think the President of the United States knows that. He knows that there are bad actors out there.
Of course he knows
But he's using this, to me, as a distraction from what is happening with Elon Musk and this fallout that they're having, because Elon started to say things that the administration was very uneasy about, right? But now all of a sudden we have riots going on in LA when, to me, you sending in National Guard exacerbated that, because there are bad actors out there. Those people were peacefully protesting, and all of a sudden you see men covered up throwing rocks at police cars, and it almost looks orchestrated, right? Rocks at police cars to warrant your response. I think it's all theater. That's what I think we're watching.
And see, what you're saying now is an example of what happens when you're educated and you can see beyond the line. You can read between the lines to understand what is transpiring. This very same individual who claimed that he's doing this for law and order freed 1,500 individuals who attacked the Capitol of the United States of America. That was an insurrection. But yet, no National Guard was called out.
Yes, and also too, some of those same 1,500 people. Yeah, Kristi Noem, the lady that he has cosplaying as a governmental official. Yeah, she was being interviewed. You know, they don't like to answer questions, but she actually acquiesced to say that some of the January 6th insurrectionists are actually operating in the capacity of ICE agents.
I can believe that. I mean, you know, when Barack Obama got elected, the Proud Boys and the Oath Keepers were formed. Yes. Because there was a concern that we were taking over, so they had to protect themselves. So those individuals, the insurrection of January 6th, they were military individuals. These individuals were well trained. So can they sign up for that particular issue as ICE agents? Of course they can. That would be individuals who you would want being in a position that he is in. That's the people you will want. They're totally loyal to you. They will do anything that you say, whenever you say it, despite the legalities of it. This is where we as a citizenry need to use our education, our knowledge to recognize what is truly happening and then take steps.
And you were talking about education. This is happening because we did not educate ourselves on Project 2025. Yeah. And I'm not talking about all of us. I'm talking about those of us who made it very clear what was inside of that document, because some of us actually had to look through it and read it so that we can bring it back to the masses of people. And I wasn't even a host on WBOK at the time. I started guesting first, and then I became a co-host, and we were talking about it here on the show. And folk were pushing back, saying that we were fear-mongering, that you know, there's no way that a president of the United States will be following this sort of document because it was so radical, it was so oppressive, it marginalized so many groups of people. Yeah. And here we are. What we're seeing play out in LA is inside of Project 2025, using the United States military on United States soil against United States citizens is inside of Project 2025. Yeah. The dismantling, since we're talking about education, of the Department of Education is inside of Project 2025. This idea that, like you said, they thought we were going to take over, that is the whole basis of Project 2025. Yeah. And this whole golden era, they want to go back to a golden era. Well, what time do you think that represents it?
I always wanted to ask whoever said that, when are you talking about? To make it, okay, when you say make it, okay, when are you talking about? But again, you know, and the Project 2025 was created. Now, this is anybody who doesn't understand. That's why I want you to be educated. Was created by individuals who worked for Donald Trump. But yet, Donald Trump said, well, I don't know anything about that.
And he said it multiple times.
I know anything about that.
But his name was listed multiple times in the document, over and over and over.
This is why,
and a part of the idea of Project 2025 too, Doc, since we're talking about education, this whole Moms for Liberty and this attack on on books, this attack on history, all of that is a part of the master plan.
Yeah.
Because if you don't want to talk about the true history of America, then you can't talk about the enslavement period.
That's right.
And that's what they really want, this whole idea of making folk feel guilty or uncomfortable. That is a fallacy that they created to radicalize their base into thinking what they were doing is the right thing to do.
And this is why education is so important. This is why we had part of having this conversation. The psychology of education, for you to understand what is going on in your world, to really understand, to be able to critically think your way through it. This is why we even brought up how it was illegal to teach a slave how to read and write. For this individual to know what you're doing, they can step in and do something about what you're doing. So if they don't understand what you're doing because they have not been educated enough to understand it, then they can do what they want. The dismantling of the Department of Education, when I heard that and saw that, my mind went back to slavery days. We do not want you to know what is transpiring. We want to control the information that you receive. No, you cannot find out about how your people were abused at one point in time, because if you learn that, you might actually take steps to prevent it from occurring again. So you can't learn about that. And the utilization of terminology and phrases such as, well, we don't want people to think of us as negative people based upon our history and based upon our ancestry. Yeah, we need to know that. Why do Jewish individuals celebrate the Holocaust? So that it never happens again. They needed to be known what horrible thing took place so that we now know how to avoid it. Same way with slavery. We need to understand what transpired, how it transpired, so we can prevent it from ever happening again.
We got to go to break, but when we come back, we'll have more with Victor Sims talking about the psychology of education right here, WBOK 1230 AM, what New Orleans is talking about all day long.
This is your news update for WBOK from WDSU. For all your news and weather, watch WDSU News, New Orleans' leader in live, local, late-breaking news. Today at noon and 4 p.m.
Partly cloudy, but showers and thunderstorms ramp up for the afternoon and evening. Will still be hot today. Highs reach the low 90s, feeling like the upper 90s. Windstorms do arrive. Expect frequent lightning, heavy downpours, and strong winds. There is the potential for flash flooding. Also, a couple of storms could turn strong to severe. More rain and 90s expected for the rest of the week. From the WDSU First Warning Weather Center, I'm Raven Richard.
This is Monica Pierre along with Sally Ann Roberts Daybone, co-host of Your Power is On.
Tune in Sunday mornings from 7 to 8 a.m. for music that feeds the spirit. Get your Sunday on.
Right here on WBOK 1230 AM and WBOK1230.com, the station you listen to all day long.
The National World War II Museum. Located in the Warehouse District of New Orleans, the National World War II Museum tells the story of America's experience in the war that changed the world, why it was fought, how it was won, and what it means today. Visit them online at www.nationalww2museum.org for time tickets and safety information.
WBOK and LCMC Health are proud to present Keeping You Well Cafe. 60 Minutes with LCMC Health, where the doctors speak directly to the people of New Orleans. LCMC Health is committed to improving the quality of care here in New Orleans, the Gulf South, and beyond. The Keeping You Well Cafe is another way for LCMC Health to engage with the community. At the Keeping You Well Cafe, LCMC Health joins WBOK and local businesses to answer your questions about wellness and health.
Visit DePaul's new Algiers Health Center at 2801 General de Gaulle Drive to receive primary and preventive care for both adults and children. Services also include behavioral health, imaging, and on-site pharmacy, vision, Medicaid enrollment assistance, and more. For appointments, visit DePaulCommunityHealthCenters.org or call 504-207-3060.
Sometimes I struggle to get to sleep. My body stopped for the day, but my mind is still running. So I take ZzzQuil.
ZzzQuil, the world's #1 sleep aid brand, has a range of non-habit-forming products to fit you and your family's needs. Invest in a great night's sleep for the best you tomorrow.
I'm awake and ready to take on anything.
Better days start with ZzzQuil nights. Explore our products at ZzzQuil.com. Use as directed. Keep out of reach of children.
Hey everybody, it's Kimber White Dupree.
And it's Graylin Bryant Banks from the front porch. We're coming up next.
Good morning, Wake Up. The Good Morning Show. Good morning. On WBOK.
Welcome back to the Good Morning Show. Right now, we are in conversation with Victor Sims, talking about the psychology of education or the psychopathy of this government that we are currently under. So as it relates to education, how important is it as a foundational pillar to all of what we are seeing play out in our government right now? Because we have a WWE lady running education. We have a 22-year-old grocery store clerk in charge of terror prevention. We have a Fox reporter in charge of our Department of Defense. Yeah. And you talk about education, you talk about merit, and you talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion. Nothing you're doing is founded in merit or that they have the expertise, but you want to throw merit at us when we are in positions that you don't believe we belong in. Yeah. How important is education to this current administration?
Education right now is vital to understand what is truly realistically taking place. You have, as you just identified, you have individuals who are totally unqualified to be in these positions. Their educational level, their experience level, they're nowhere near or they qualified for these positions. But what they do is do whatever he says.
They loyal, blind loyalty
to the hill. And anyone, when Barack Obama was elected president of the United States, he purposely selected people he knew disagreed with him to be on his cabinet, to get the other side so they can have an equal discussion about any particular thing they want to be done. He could hear both sides of the argument and then make a decision that's best suited for everyone.
Sound like a sound way of doing business. We have a caller on line one. Good morning, Mark. You're on with Victor Sims and Dr. Wyatt.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
I listen to you guys. I listen to you, ma'am, every morning.
Thank you.
I just, decided to call in today. Okay, education. As I tell my grandkids about education, that black folks, when you go all the way back to Egypt or whatever, right, we created academic and education. So it started with us. We are the grandfathers, the ancestors of this planet. And we shouldn't be, they keeping us from educating and dumbing down our children. I noticed they have a Jewish community center on St. Charles. I was there some years ago. And I'm noticing how they train their children. They even have like when they're changing from one class to another class, they have like a little bell, like when you're changing classes, going from your next classroom to the next one. They have a bell that sounds like you're on a ship, like Star Trek. Drip, drip, and everybody going from one class to another. But my point, you were saying, Mr. Sims, that, how the Jewish keep up the Holocaust and, it's because they're training their own. We need to train our own. Can we develop our own schools ourselves with our own money? I don't have a problem putting that. I don't have no problem. Or could we train our children? Because today, like you, ma'am, you guys know how to read and write. Can we train our own?
Yeah. Well, thank you, Mark, for that. I hope you keep listening. I think we're getting ready to give you an answer. I appreciate your call.
Well, of course we can. We have to, but to do it, we have to take part within the system, and it's called voting. We have to put individuals in power that have the ability and knowledge to understand what is needed, what is realistic, and put them in office, and we are able to put more focus on education. It drives me when I hear education systems are having their budgets reduced. Teachers have to come out of their own pocket in order to decorate their classrooms. This is insane. The most important thing we can do for this society, for our people, is to educate them. The most important thing. As far as I'm concerned, teachers should never have to ask for a raise. That they are the foundation of this society. There's not one legislative individual, no businessman individual, nobody driving a police car, fire truck who have not been educated. Everybody in our society who has a decision-making capacity has had to go to school to be educated. It is the number one thing that maintains our entire civilization. So to have it struggle, to find individuals to go in, to have teachers fired and not retrained to assist in additional information to our students, because remember, those individuals in second and third grade are the leaders of tomorrow. What are we doing for them to make sure that they're prepared by providing them with accurate, appropriate education that is realistic, despite if it identifies one group has been unfair to another group? I'm sorry, we need to understand it. We need to learn that so we can prevent that from our future.
Listen, this conversation can go on and on and on. We're talking about education, and you cannot come here and then I don't see you for months and months and months. We gotta talk about the things that need to be talked about, and we have to make it plain for the folk. But we're running out of time, so you got to promise me you're going to come back.
I guarantee you.
Absolutely. It's been a dynamic show. I want to thank Jeff Williams, Senior Project Manager for the U.S. Corps of Engineers, for visiting us today, talking about the hurricane preparedness. I want to also thank Dr. Jose Calderon, Medical Director for Behavioral Health at United Healthcare, here also talking about mental health and youth mental health as we prepare for hurricane season, and the one and only Victor Sims here talking about the psychology of education. And that's a show in and of itself. We could talk for the whole 2 hours on that, but thank you, sir, for being here. What I will say about WBOK, and I often thank our listening audience, because without them, there would be no reason to keep talking all day long, right?
This is true.
So I appreciate the engagement from the callers, to those of you who engage in the chat. And I want to be very clear about something. I welcome varying perspectives. I want you to push my thinking.
Yes.
I want you to ask me for clarity. I want you to push me in a way that it makes me think about what your stance is. I don't need anybody to just agree with me for the sake of agreement.
No.
That's not how we grow, right? And I take pride in being a rational thinker, and I take pride in being a critical thinker.
Yes.
More often than not, you will possibly agree with my stance, and sometimes you just won't.
Yeah.
But what I will say is, I don't say anything by accident. There are people listening who are architects and organizers and administrators of miseducation, right? And they know who they are. And when I say things, they know I'm telling the truth. You might not like the tone in which I say it. You might not like the passion behind what I'm saying. But what I want you to do is filter through all of that for the message. And the message is very clear. Until you do right by my children, every time you turn on WBOK at 7 a.m., you're going to hear me talk about it. And if you don't, then don't listen. Because here's my thing. I don't have to be polite in defense of children when I'm watching them be disserviced.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
You don't get to tell me how well a system is doing when I see the product of that system struggling for food, struggling for housing, struggling to fill out a job application, right?
Yeah.
You don't get to tell me how well a system is doing when only the part of the system that you intend to operate fully is the part of it that you're using as data to tell me that the kids are doing so well. The kids cannot read on grade level. And until they do, we here at WBOK are going to continue to talk about the psychology of education.
Yes, ma'am.
So thank you for being here. Y'all stay tuned. Up next for the Front Porch, we're grilling and Kemper. But as far as the Good Morning Show, Dr. Ashanta White, my super producer, Nyron Sanders, we going to see y'all tomorrow. This is WBOK 1230 AM. What New Orleans is talking about all day long.
Have you heard the secret of what New Orleans is to